This conference will now be recorded.
So in this demo.isha, we are seeing the examples. Everyone installed Eclipse and started doing this. Any queries in that? Like install JDK Eclipse and started doing this programming.
Yes, I already installed.
Okay. I just want to know whether any issues you faced. Okay. Please do the practice, like install it, because anyway, when you do the practice only, you may get some more queries and you can able to let me know, because doing only will tell, right? Okay. So today we'll be seeing the concept called packaging and access specifiers. So which is also important core concept. So as I told you, I think you beginning, you have a package, right? So package is nothing but the group of classes, and you'll see you have a package here also. That is nothing but the default package. If you are not giving any package name, it will be taking the package name as nothing but your default. So package is nothing but your group of classes. So how you will be importing a package, or how you will be doing it is, so for example, whenever you want to declare some class under a package. So for example, I'm declaring a package called com dot some package name examples one. So assume that in this package, as I told you, a group of classes. So why you need a packaging is nothing but, for example, when you do any application, you need to group the classes together. For example, when you want to achieve the functionality, so some classes will be belongs to the same package. Like for example, when you want to do the ordering, as I'm just telling as an example, like when you want to do like a cargo application, you have an order, you have a booking, you have check-in. So if you do like an application for a software, like for example creating operation, like creating an employee, deleting an employee, right? So for example, there may be an employees belongs to one department, right? So you want to group them everything. For example, whenever you do the creation for that department, or you want other activities, right? All the classes that related to the same department, you'll have, I'm just telling as an example, you'll have a department as a package. In that department package, you'll be having all the classes related to that particular department. Neither maybe .NET department, Java department, whatever it may be. So like that, you will have a requirement that grouping of all the classes together. So that is nothing but your package. So here I am taking one of the package called com.example. So assume that I have a classes here called A, B, and C. So I have a package name called com.example where A, B, C are nothing but my class names. Similarly, I have another package called com.examples2. And here I have a package is called something like D, E. Yes. So whenever you want to write a package, how it will be package A. Under this package, so sorry, package under this you will be having a class called A. So my package name followed by the class A. So for example, you want to use the class which is present in the same package, no issues, you no need to import it. But for example, when you want to use a D class which is in your A, what is the meaning of using is nothing but like as I told you, your classes will have a hazard relationship. What is an hazard relationship is nothing but creating one of the object of your class in another class. So you see, as of now, what are the examples that we have seen here? I have created a constructor example that is nothing but same class, right? Constructor example is the same class object I created in the same file. But in the real-time scenario, you'll have a requirement creating of another class object in another, right? For example, employee object in this constructor example, or constructor object in this employee. So like creating another class object is nothing but an as a relationship. Your classes will have a relationship like Isa as a relationship. Isa is nothing but the inheritance, as I told you yesterday. Like the child and parent, same way you have an as a relationship. So where I want to create an object of D in my A. So if I'm trying to create an object of D in my A, so first of all, what I need is nothing but I need to import this package. Without importing, I cannot do that creation. So how I'll be importing? I have a keyword called import in Java. Import. So from where I need to get that? It is from com.examples2. com.examples2 dot D. Similarly, when you want to create E object, you need to import it E. So there are two syntaxes. You can import individual classes. For example, you want only D class, right? So import it with that particular class. But what you want all the classes which are present in that package. So you just import with the star. Import com dot examples. So examples 2 dot star. So what it will do, it is going to give all the classes which is present in your package. So now you can able to create all the objects over here. I think this are clear, right? What is a class? Sorry, what is a package and how you are importing it and all, right? So this is small about packages. Okay. So now we see what is access specifiers and access modifiers. So why I've told you packages before, it is related, right? You cannot able to understand this concept without understanding what is package. So So they are nothing but access specifiers or access modifiers. So why you need, majorly there are four things we'll be using in Java: the access specifiers and access modifiers. That is the public, one is default, one more is your private, and protected. So we'll see one by one. So there are two levels that you can apply it. One is at the access specifiers can be applied at two levels, like one at class level and one is nothing but at method level. Apply means you can write before the class or before the method you can write it. So I can write it class level, and the second thing I can write it method level. So to method I can apply this access specifier, and to a class I can apply this access specifier. So first we'll see with the class level. So in the class level we can able to apply only two access specifiers, that is nothing but your public and default. You cannot able to apply this private and protected class level. So we'll see why you cannot able to apply whenever we discuss this private and protected with method level. So we'll see first with the class level, public and default. So before a class, if I write a public access specifier, I can able to write an access specifier public before the class. This is the way I am writing. Public class A. Right? So what is the usage of public? So whenever you make the access specifier as public to the class level, so it means that class can be accessible anywhere. It means outside the package also. Whatever, wherever the package, wherever the class is, it can be. For example, your D is accessible inside A, right? So your D should be public. If it is not public, you cannot able to access it. So how your D will be declared here? So how I am declaring the same way, I'll be declaring the D, right? So D is present in a package com dot example 2. Right? And you have a class called D in this package. So you are accessible if and only if this D is public. If it is not public, you cannot able to create this object, right? Because public is the one which can be able to access only outside the package. So D is accessing outside the package, right? Because D is in com.examples2 and E is in com.example1, which is accessing it. So the next thing is your default. So what is the default? If you are not writing anything before the class level, that is considered as default. So if I am not writing it as public, so that is default. So for a D also, if I'm not writing any access specifier before my class level, that is nothing but your default access specifiers. So in case of default, this will give a compile time error. This is not acceptable. Compile time error. So it means you cannot able to create an access specifier for a default one. Sorry, you cannot able to create an object if the access specifier is default. It means you cannot able to access that outside the package. Default has a scope within the package itself. What is the name of access? The name indicates, right? Access specifiers and access modifiers. So it will tell, okay, what is the up to which level I can able to move, I can able to access it, right? So when it comes to public, the accessibility is more. It can be accessible outside the package also. When it comes to default, the accessibility is less, which is within the package itself. Within the package means this D can be accessible now by E and F, but it cannot be accessible by A because A is outside the package, but E and F are within the package. So that can be accessible even though with this default. When it is public, E and F can also, because if outside, for sure inside will be also possible. So whatever we have seen, like the examples, I have written with the default a public. So you have seen the public. So this is also a public. So assume that you can able to create this employee object. This is a public, right? If you are trying to create one more package, also I can able to do it. So I can, first of all, I'm creating a package. So I'm creating some same package like com.examples2. So here, which is present in default package. If you want, I can rename it to com.examples1. Refactor. Sorry. Okay, so it is not allowing to refactor. Okay, fine. So it is present in this default package, and I'm creating one more class, some A class, or you can say D. So you see, this is the D class which is present in the com.examples2. So, but still I can able to create this object in my constructor example. So how can I do? I'll try to create an object here. D, some reference variable equals to new. So why it is giving an error is nothing but to ask me to do import. So import from this com.examples2. You see, I have done the import, right? You declared D in this package, and which is present in this com.examples2, and it is public, and that's the reason you can able to create an object in your constructor example, and it is not giving any error. Assume that if it is not public, it means if it is default. I'll remove this. So where this accessibility is only within the class. So then what should happen? I should not able to create the object in my constructor example. So you see, there was an error. D cannot be resolved to a type, so it cannot able to find this D. Why? Because it is now became as default. So when I make it as public, it can able to get it. That is good. Hope you got it. So what is a thing for default and what is the thing for public? So whatever the rule that is applied for a class level, the same rule is applicable for a method level when you go for public and default. So it means if the method, someone want to ask something?
Yes. Can't we able to create an object in method level? So,
I didn't get you.
sorry, actually, yeah, we are creating an object, right? So if we want to call any object, so we are importing it. Yeah, what we had we said, right? Yeah, but yeah, we are creating an object like the class name reference is equal to new constructor. So this is a syntax we are using, right? So right now we are defining inside a class, like that means outside a method. So we are defining. Can we use it inside a method? There is any
I'm,
something like that?
like I'm creating inside a method only, right?
No. Oh, okay, fine, fine, fine. I didn't see that. Oh, okay.
Okay, inside the main method only. So main method only I should be creating it.
Okay, and there is no limitations, right? After, for example, if you are importing class X that which is in another package, and we can
Hmm.
also import another class that Y that which is in another package, right? So there is no
Yes,
limitations, right?
exactly.
We have to, yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
okay, okay.
No, because generally in application you will importing it from 10 or 20 packages, 30 packages, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Generally
So
in
that
real
you
time
can
you
create
have
a,
that.
yeah, so that you can create a multiple objects and you can call the methods, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So the same rule for your methods. So what is the method? Same rule for method. For example, assume that it is public. This class is public. So it means then I can able to do that accessibility and I can create an object, right? And you have a method called something void m1, and another method called, so I am telling in D class I have these two methods, public void m2. So it is the same rule. So then can you tell me which one will give me an error? Can I access d dot m1 or can I access d dot m2? Is both are fine or only one is correct in this?
Only one is correct because method one we didn't mention the public. It's not an so that we can't access from.
Yes, exactly. What you told is exactly right. So method 2 only can be accessible because it is default, which can be accessible only in some E or F classes, but which cannot be accessible uh, to the other packages. So your M2 cannot be accessible. So whatever the rule applied for the class level, the same rule is applied at method. I'm just trying to show whatever I tell, that's it. Like to make the things cool. So I'm just writing inside and inside. So from constructor, you can create an object, but you can access only d dot m2. You cannot access d dot m1. So it cannot even giving the suggestion also. You can will see it is not visible. Why? Because it is m1 is your default. But when you make it is public, you can. Yes, you see there are. but where this M1 can be accessible, it can be accessible within the same package. For example, I'll create a class sum E, where I can able to create an object of D and I can access D dot M1 and M2. Why? Because it is default, which can be accessible within the package. So E and D is in the same package, so that's the reason we can able to access it. So now, why this are not accessible at class level is why your public, why your private and protected are not accessible at class level is why, because they have accessibility very less. So we'll see with method level, then you get more clarity inside M1 of D. So assume that if it is this method is private, so now you can able to access it, right? You can able to access it outside this because it is default, which is within the same package. Assume that if the method is of private, then you cannot. So private is the one where the accessibility is only within the class, so there is very less accessibility. So you see, there was an error. The method M1 of type D is not visible. So why? Because this is of private. So when it is private, you cannot accessible outside the class itself, right? So it is not outside the package, outside the class. So when it is outside the class, another package, obviously no. In the same package also, you cannot able to. So within the class itself, you can able to access, which is private. So which is have high restrictions. So which is a more like very less accessibility compared to other access specifiers. And you cannot do this, which is of private method. So you have another category that is nothing but your protected. Assume that I have a protected method. Protected void M3. So your M3 is nothing but your protected. So protected has the accessibility, but it is which is of different kind. For example, trying to access D dot M3. One minute, my charging is getting down. Okay. So protected can be accessible within the package. Assume that you have a constructor example. For sure, can I access M1 here? I cannot, right? In constructor example, which is of different package, I cannot access M1 for sure, which is of why? Because it is private, right? Similarly, can I access M3? No, I cannot access even M3 also, which will stay it is not visible. But M3 can be accessible in indirect way. So what is the meaning of accessing your M3 in indirect way? Is nothing but even you cannot access some default method also, like some M4 you have which is of default. Even you cannot access the default method also, but the protected has a less less restriction compared to default in one scenario. That is nothing but even the method is protected that can be accessible in an indirect way whenever there is a child and parent relationship. For example, if there is a relationship called child and parent from your constructor example and D, then you can able to do that accessibility. As I told you yesterday, how you can able to call the parent class methods. So assume that your constructor example is a child of your D. So then what I need to do, and I want to make this as a child, what I will do, extends D, right? So now your constructor example is a child and your D is nothing but the parent. So how can I access is, assume that you have a method called something like void some M1 here. There is a method which is present in your constructor example. So I'll be creating this constructor example and I'll be calling this constructor example method, right? So that is nothing but ex1.m1. I'm calling the m1 method which is present in this constructor example. So from this m1 method, from the parent class, so from the child class method, if I want to call a parent class method, what is the keyword I need to use? Yesterday discussed, right? From a child class methods, if I want to call a parent class methods,
Super.
yes, exactly, super. So we'll be using super keyword to call that. So I can able to access your protected method by using super keyword. Set M3 of D. So which is a protected method by using super keyword. Super dot M3. You can do it. But you cannot access even the private method with the super. Super.m1 you cannot access. Only super.m3 can be accessible because it is of protected. Inside M4 of D. So here in this D there are four methods available. One is your default, one is protected, one is public, and one is private. So public, anywhere you can access it. Private, no chance. You can access within the method itself. Sorry, within the class itself. So for example, super.m1 will also throw me an error. Right? So the method D is not visible. Even there is a child and parent relationship, you cannot able to call it. So can I call super.m4?
Yes, if it is within the package, we can call.
Oh no, outside the package. I'm talking about this in the constructor example, which is outside the package, right? So can I call super.m4? For sure, in direct way you cannot able to access it, right? In direct way, can you able to create an object and call m4 method? For sure you cannot. In direct way, I'm asking whether can I able to call m4 method.
No clue when.
No, it is not. You cannot.
Yeah.
That's what only
Yes.
protected can be called. So super dot, for example, the rule is if it is of in the with that pack with the access specifier called default, whatever the case, whether there is a child and parent relationship or whatever it may be, you cannot access your default method outside the package. So even I cannot do super.m4 in the indirect way also. From a child also I cannot able to call your parent method super.m, which will be saying the same. It is invisible. It is the invisible. But only I can able to do that rule will be reduced only for protected method. When it is method is protected, you can able to call that method you outside the package also. You can able to access that method outside the package also, but not in a direct way. It is nothing but in indirect way whenever there is a child and parent relationship. If there is no relationship, you cannot. Sorry, it is M3. Okay, hope you are clear. Inside M2 of D, inside M3 of D.
Yeah, a small doubt. Yesterday I haven't attended the class. So just before coming to the class, I rewind my all the recorded video, all the previous recorded
Mm,
videos. So I
mm,
just want to ask, what is the difference between? So we want to add, we want to like get. So simply we'll create an object and we'll call a method, right? So what is the
mm.
specific? Why we use a super specialist? In which case we have to use that super keyword? So I just want to know the difference on it. Yeah.
Here, you see, I have used here super, right?
Yes.
So generally, why you will be using a super is nothing but from the child class. I think I have told you the inheritance. Like you're clear with inheritance concept. Like
Yes,
you
I
will
am
be
clear with inheritance. Yeah.
like you will be creating a child and parent where all the parent properties will be inherited to your child, and but your child may have also have its own properties, but what are the properties for a child will not be coming to the parent. So for example, I'll be writing my child methods, right? So whenever I
Okay.
write my child methods, and from the child method I'll be creating my child object and I'll call child method. But what I want, before executing my child logic, I just want my parent logic to be executed, right? So there are
Okay.
some part of the code I want my parent method to be executed, so I want to call my parent method. So whenever I call the child also, I just want to execute my parent method, so then I'll be using super dot that method name,
Okay.
right? And similarly
Okay.
we have super with brackets.
Fine.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this is super dot, and we have one more thing is nothing but super brackets. So what is this super brackets? We have something like super with brackets. So what is the super with brackets is nothing but it is used to call the parent class methods, parent
Hmm.
class constructor, sorry. So for example, what is my parent class here? D is my
D is
parent
my
class.
is a parent class. Yes.
So if you want to call this parent class things, you can able to use the super with
Hmm.
brackets. So you'll be using this in the constructor level. So what you'll do, you'll be, I have created an object, right? So I have
Okay.
created the zero parameter object or two parameter object. So it went to this two parameter object. So from this two parameter object, and this and super should be the first statements. So I just want to call the parent class zero parameter constructor or one parameter constructor. I'll be using like this. So what it will do, from a constructor only you can use super with brackets. From a method level you cannot use it. So which will call your parent class zero parameterized constructor. So your
Understood.
D class
Understood.
is a parameterized constructor. Even you do not had it, why it is because your compiler will create a zero parameterized constructor, and that's the reason.
Okay. Okay.
Assume that if you have one parameterized constructor.
Okay.
And you want to call this one parameterized constructor from your child. So generally, when you want to call from the same class, what you do? You will create the object with one parameter. Am I right? Like you will be
Yes.
creating an object with d and some reference variable and
Thanks.
mu equals to d,
Thanks.
and you pass this value. But the same thing, what you want to do, you want to call this one parameterized constructor this way from the same class, but you do not want to do this here. So you want to call this one parameterized constructor from your child. Then what you do? Super with brackets. You will be writing this.
Okay. Okay. Good.
Even it should be public.
Public. Yeah.
So if it is not public, it cannot. Right?
Yes.
So before it is not public, that's the reason you cannot able to find that object. Clear on that part?
Yeah. Yes, I'm clear. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So any queries for anyone on this access specificity and modifiers and all this?
I'm fine with this. I'm fine with the access specifiers. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And we have one rule in it whenever you do this access specificity. So here I'll just give the numberings from the accessibilities from lower to higher. So which has less accessibility? Which is your private, which has less accessibility. And which has second less accessibility is nothing but your default. Am I right? So which is within the package only. And the next thing is nothing but your protected, which is of that accessibility. I'm just trying to increase the numbering, which will increase your accessibility. And which is the fourth one is a public, which has more accessibility. So protected can access outside the package if and only if there is child and parent relationship. Default cannot be accessible outside the package if there is child and parent relationship also. Default has accessibility only within the package. So when it comes to the private, there is no package concept, it is only the class level, right? So that's the reason this is nothing but the numbering, like 1 less 2 and 3 and 4, right? So why I given this numbering is nothing but to explain you the rule for when you do this overriding. So there is a there is a concept called overriding, right? So there are two things. One is your overloading and overriding. Someone will ask that what is the difference between overriding and overloading? This is a very famous question. So what do we see first? Overriding. So for example, I have a class A, and in this A I have a method M1, and you have a class B. So if I want to make this as a child, what I'll be doing, I'll do extends A. Am I right? So your A is nothing but the parent and B is nothing but your child class. So whenever your child can also have its own methods, right? But for example, I have an M1 method. So I do not want this logic to be executed. I just want to create my different logic for the same method's name. So then I'll be doing method overload. You see void m1 and 2. So here you have a void m1 method in your child parent and void m1 method in your child. So there is no difference. You see the return type is void here, the return type is void here. The name is m1 and the name of the method is m1, and you have 0 parameters, you have 0 parameters here. So what is the meaning of overriding is nothing but same method name and same signature also. Overriding. That is nothing but same method name, same signature. You call this as nothing but your overriding. And when it comes to overloading, same name, different signature. Here the signature will be your signature may be the return type, type of parameters. Everything should be same. I'm telling you. Your return type and type of parameters and order of parameters. Order of parameters and type, return, order, number of parameters. Everything should be same whenever you do this overriding. So the overriding you do it in child and parent class. So what is overloading is nothing but same name, different signature. Same method name, different signature. You do this in the same class. So the same again, the signature will be your, all this will come, and anything differ will you call it as method overload. So for example, I have a class A, right? In the same class A, if I am trying to write void m1 with int A, so this is nothing but your method overloading. You see method names are same, void m1, void is a return type is same, and here it is m1 and it is m1. But what is the difference here? You have 0 parameters and you have 1 parameter. So it is differing with the number of parameters, 0 and 1. So that you call it as method overload. This is nothing but you cannot do. In the same class, you cannot do method overriding. So this is also method overloading only. Why? Because they differ with the return type. Method names are same, the number of parameters is different, right? Same like the return type, type of parameters means here it may be the void again. I have int A, I have something float B. So you see return types are same, names are same, but the number of parameters also same, that is 1 and 1, but the type of parameters are different. Here it is int, here it is float. Then float B. Here names are same, return types are same, but what is the different? Here the number also same, there is 2 parameters, type also same, you have int and float, but order is different. It is int float, it is float. So this you call it as also method over. So differ in anything. So but when it comes to method overriding, everything should be same. Okay, I think you are clear with this concept, right? So here when you do this method overload, sorry, someone want to ask something?
No, no, it's fine. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
So whenever you want to do this method over riding, so there is a rule. So here, as I told you, your method name should be same and the signature is same. So, but what about the access specifier? So whenever you do this overriding, your accessibility cannot be reduced. Your access specifier should not be reduced. It can be same or it can be increased. So for example, what is access specifier for M1 method? It is default. So when you do this overriding, what is an access specifier? It is default. Fine. So the same accessibility when you do this overriding is fine, but you cannot reduce the accessibility. What is the meaning of reducing the accessibility here? It is default, so I am not allowed to write it as private, so I cannot reduce this accessibility. So from default to private, so why is nothing but reducing this accessibility, right? So default has two accessibility, private has one accessibility, which is very less. So you're not allowed to reduce the accessibility when you're trying to do the overwriting. So but I can able to increase the accessibility. It means I can do write it as public. So which is I am trying to increase the accessibility. Default has 4 accessibility, but I can able to make it as public. So this is a rule when you do overriding. When do overriding, we are not allowed to reduce the accessibility. You should not reduce that accessibility. It should be, it can be same or more. Okay, I think you're clear with this. So you have a constructor example, right? So you have a T class, right? Here you have a method called something like M2, public void M2. I can able to do this overriding of your M2. Am I right? What is this? This is nothing but you're trying to do the overriding. So when you're trying to do this overriding, if it is public, yes, you can make it as a public, but I cannot write it as private or something. You will see that error. Cannot reduce the accessibility of inherited method from T. So this method is getting inherited, like it is getting overriding from T. So you cannot reduce this accessibility, which is a public. You should be keep it as public only. Why? Because public has more accessibility. You cannot reduce anything. So public is more. So you cannot reduce to private, protected, default, anything. It will show you that error. Protected, default, it is the same. For sure, private also to be the same. So always it should be the public only. Is this clear?
Yes.
So when you do this protected, also there is a same. So we have seen access specifiers and what are the rules for access specifiers and what is the package and all this. So we'll just see what is an abstract class and what is an interface also. You have an abstract method, first of all. What is this? An abstract method is nothing but a method which is declared without body. You call that as a nothing but an abstract method. So generally, why we have a method? We have a method where you have some body, right? So for example, I am writing an avoid m1 method where I have the body, where I'll be writing the method logic. We'll see what is that usage of abstract methods and what uh, like why there is an abstract classes and all this we'll see. But before that, we'll be discussing about what is an abstract things. So, but this is nothing but a normal method or a concrete method. Similar like you have an abstract methods where that will not have an body. So how you will declare the syntax of your abstract method is nothing but method name, the same thing, method type, method name, brackets, and ending it. So you will end with semicolon. You will not have the body for the method. So the syntax for abstract. So how you will be writing it? You'll be writing void some m2. So where you end without body with semicolon, so that methods you call it as abstract methods. So where you will write this abstract methods in abstract class. So you have a whatever we have seen is nothing but a normal concept of classes where you have normal things, right? So similarly, you have an abstract classes also where how you'll write an abstract class is nothing but a abstract keyword before a class level and a class name. So this is nothing but an abstract class. So abstract is a predefined keyword in your Java. So where you will be using before class level to make that class as an abstract class. So whatever we have seen as of now is nothing but a normal classes where you have a normal methods. So now we have an abstract method and an abstract class. So why we have a concept of abstract class is because if there is an abstract method that should be written inside an abstract class. So for example, if any class in any class, if at least you have some 10 methods or 20 methods, whatever, any one of the method is abstract method, then your class should become as an abstract. So it means your abstract class will have normal methods as well as an abstract methods. It will contain both the things. All right, I'll show with an example. So you have this nothing but a normal class. So generally we have seen with the normal methods, right? This are nothing but your normal method that we have seen, where we are having the method with the body, and you will have this execution, right? I'm not sure the Eclipse is little slow. Now you have a concept called abstract methods. So what I'll do in so how you will declare this abstract methods is nothing but you should be writing even the keyword called abstract before a method. Abstract and void. So I'm writing it as abstract void. So still why there is an error? So you see the abstract method can be defined only in abstract class. So it means if in a normal class, if you do not have an abstract method, it is not required. Like the class will not, it is not required the class to make it as an abstract. But at least if you have one abstract method, that class should become as an abstract class. So you cannot have an abstract methods in a normal class. So how I can make this class as an abstract? Just writing an abstract keyword before the class level. So now your class become as an abstract class. So now you have a normal methods as well as an abstract methods. What is a normal methods? Your M2 is nothing, M1 is nothing but a normal method where you have a method body, method logic, and M2 is nothing but your abstract. So you may have a queries like what is an use of abstract method? So who is going to write the logic? So generally method is the one where someone has to write the logic, right? So here is an for M1 method, here we'll have an write the body and we'll have a logic. But for an M2 method, so who is going to write the logic, right? So that is nothing but your child class which inherited extends your abstract example will be able to write this logic. And you cannot able to create the objects of your abstract classes. So it is slow. So you are not allowed to create an object of an abstract class. So you what you'll do, you will create an object of the class which extends your abstract class. So you'll make this abstract class as a parent and you will do that inheritance concept. So assume that if I'm trying to create an object, it will throw me an error. Not sure it is shocking a lot. Cannot instantiate the type. Instantiate means you cannot create that object of your abstract class. So for example, M1 will have a logic, right? So who is going to execute the M1 logic and who is going to write the logic for M2? So there is just two queries. So for example, any class you whenever you want to call write a method, that method should have a body and which will be executed, right? And whenever you have any method there in this, for example, but this for abstract class, you have an M1 method with body, but you cannot call this because you cannot create an object of an abstract class. And you have an M2 method, but someone has to execute this, someone has to write the logic for this. So who is going to do this two things is nothing but a child class which extends your abstract class, which will do this functionalities like calling the parent class method, a non-abstract method which is present in abstract class, as well as write the logic for your abstract method. One of abstract class. So I'll create a class which extends your abstract class. So I'm naming it as abstract child. Which will extend your abstract example, and what it will do, it will be doing that overriding. So same name, same signature of an abstract method. Extends your. So you may have queries why to declare that as an abstract class there and why to do overriding here. So there is a reason for everything. I'll just tell you why exactly the real-time scenarios and why you need this abstract things. So for example, if you do a normal class, whenever you take a normal class example like class A and class B, which is no abstract things. So in that case, what happens? There is no rule of overriding as mandatory. So for example, you take this constructor example and D, which is of normal classes, right? There is no abstract concept here. So your D is having a method called M1, M3, M4, right? So is it that mandatory to override any of the method here? No, right? So it is not required to override any method. So it will not show any error, right? Overriding of method is nothing but not mandatory. Overriding of any method is not mandatory here. But in case of abstract things, overriding of abstract methods are mandatory, because whenever you make this as a child, so as I told you, it is whose responsibility to write this and do logic. It is nothing but your child responsibility. So whenever you make this abstract example as a parent, so that child should take the responsibility of writing this logic. So how you will be writing the logic of your M2 method? By do the overriding. So for example, your if an abstract example is having 10 methods, overriding of that 10 methods is mandatory. So you see why there was an error, because you do not override an abstract M2 method. So if I do that overriding, that error will go, right? So this is what I need to do, right? So method name, and same signature. So what I'm doing this overriding for an abstract method. So, and I'll be writing the logic here in my child class. So assume that you have another abstract method called abstract void entry. So here in abstract child class, overriding of how many methods are mandatory. So here it has 3 methods. So overriding of how many methods is mandatory? 2 methods is mandatory because M1, M2 and M3 is nothing but abstract methods. So it's your choice. You can override a non-abstract method. If you want, you can override one M1 method, but it is not mandatory. But overriding of your M2, M3 is mandatory because both are abstract methods. So it will show an error because you have overridden only M2 method and you have not overridden the M3. Now your error has come. So where you will be writing the logics inside your child class. Here I can able to create my abstract child object. Yes, I can create. So then what I'll do, I'll be calling I can call M1 also, child dot M1. What it will do, it will get the M1 method which is present in your parent class. So from a child, you can call the parent class method. So what happens, it will go, first of all, you created abstract child object, right? So it will go and see whether there is M1 method present over here. No, it is not present, right? So what happens, it will go and it will execute the M1 method, it is in parent. So it will go and see in the corresponding parent. This corresponding parent is abstract example and it will go and it will execute the, so now you executed the method which is present in abstract class and you return the logic for a abstract methods. Alright, so same way you will call child.m2 and child.m. So now you can run this. Okay, you'll be getting. So any queries?
No.
So tomorrow we'll be seeing about the interfaces and mostly interfaces, OOPS concepts will be completed. This is nothing but your, I can tell you as an example of your so for example of encapsulation, your class is an example of encapsulation, right? So where everything will get binded, right? So your polymorphism is something where you have same name with a different signature. Your method overloading is an example. You can say that as a polymorphism example. Like we have seen with the inheritance, one of the concept, and like if time, like I'll be telling you what is that types of inheritance and all. Like your Java will not support multi-level inheritance. Why? Because there will be some ambiguity errors. and there are like the different types of inheritance is a concept actually. So in that Java supports only one type of inheritance only, and one more is nothing but your abstraction. What is the meaning of abstraction? Is nothing but showing only the required part and hiding the unwanted things actually. So for example, when you are trying to like you see this abstraction concept in a lot of examples, right, in a lot of real-time scenarios, right? So for example, we are using this GoToMeeting or something else, and some software you'll be using, so you do not want what internally background the things are happening, like, but you just want that functionalities to be achieved, right? The same thing with an abstraction also. You do not want what exactly the background it is happening, but you will get that functionality. The same thing is your abstract example. Your abstraction is an this abstract concept is of the same thing. Like for example, I'll declare this method as an abstract. You do not want this logic, but in behind there will be someone will be writing this logic, right? You do not want exactly what has to happen. You will see that functionality. You will see that, okay, what is the output, but internally there is some things internally it will be taken care of it. So we have interface also as an example for this, exactly for abstractions. So we'll see what is an interface, then you get more clarity, and I'll be telling you why you need an abstraction, why you need interface, why you need an abstract class, and why you need interface, and what is the difference between them. So you will be generally getting it out, right? Why you declared a method, as whether I can write the method like here itself, right? Why I should make this as an without body here, why I should go to the child class, why I should write the body in another class. So generally you should have this queries, right? Okay, we'll see that. Okay, hope the session is useful. If no queries, I'll wind it up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Surya.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll join tomorrow the same time.